All right, so here we are with Coach Steve Phipps. Coach at Central Methodist University for 12 years. What years were that you were coaching?
Well, in the mid-70s, and then I was gone for a little bit, came back, and finished in 1995.
Okay, that makes sense because my father, Braxton Rethwisch, and you recruited together. He was the admissions counselor, you were the coach, you guys would go together to visit kids at schools and talk to them about going to Central Methodist College, now known as Central Methodist University. Is that right?
That's right.
So, Coach Phipps, I was fortunate, another thing I was fortunate to have around me with having parents involved with education, would come around to the house as well. And he's got, there you go. And would come around to the house periodically and chat with me about things to do to be the best athlete, to be the best baseball player. As we were reminded, and it's 2:30 right now here in beautiful, we are in, is this Schaumburg?
This is Hoffman Estates.
Hoffman Estates.
Okay, but it's in Schaumburg?
Yeah, you're in the Schaumburg area.
Schaumburg area.
Schaumburg, South Barrington, and then in Hoffman Estates.
And our producer's from Chicago, so she knows this area. And I know you've been kind of transplanted here based on how things evolved for you, and Chicago's a great time. When I decided to look you up, I figured out you were in Chicago. I'm like, I could come up and see you. That's not too far away. So we came up here for Bears, Packers, and I said, let's make a multi-use trip out of this and get to talk to my coach, who really was an impact. So with that, I said, Coach, I'm going to come up to Chicago. I want to reflect on how you and I, what you may not even realize the impact you had, just as somebody that was kind of a mentor towards me. And you said to me, and I'm going to go through some of the things we talked about,
Sure.
if it's all right. And you would take me, you do these things. I remember some of the things you would tell me to improve upon getting better as I was a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old coming up. My dad would hit me fly balls. Cliff Polite played for the Chicago White Sox, won a 2005 World Series as the best middle reliever, a lot of people say, in baseball, at least in the American League. And Cliff grew up in the same neighborhood. Did you know Cliff Polite?
You said at least in the American League. Are you biased to the National League?
Well, then it's a matter that they would argue that it's different and how you compare the two. Now that back then they didn't have so much interleague play. So it was like,
that's right.
So then, and even 2005, but a little bit, I think. Anyway, but yeah, the argument I would make, Cliff was the best pitcher, and he had like a 2.1 ERA or something, which is pretty good for any pitcher.
Yeah, any pitcher.
Middle relief. And so Cliff came to an event that I asked him to after he won the World Series with the Chicago White Sox and got interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. They reminded me. I didn't see that one, but I heard about it. And he said, we sat down and I said, Cliff, what's it like? I've been doing this for a long time. I just had my TV show for the last 2.5 years and the Cardinal Cowboy show for that with the Cowboy Judge for another 6 or 7 years. So about 10 years with a show on TV on ABC. But this is before that, 2007, 2006, somewhere in there, because Cliff had just won the World Series. And I said, hey, what was it like growing up in the neighborhood and then making it to the big leagues? And Cliff looked at me and he said, Carter, he might have said Cowboy, but he said, Carter, you were the one that everybody in the neighborhood knew was going to make it to the big leagues. That was hard to swallow at that point, but hey, I argue that, we talked about this earlier. Life gives you lemons. You can cry about the lemons, or you can make lemonade. And I just took it a different route and said I could be upset, my career, the potential, and what I wanted to also talk to you about. We talked about this prior, a little game prep. Coach Phipps talked to me about. I'll never forget this, the batting cage. I'm 15 years old. We got to go to the batting cage together at school. I'm a college coach. We're going to the batting cage. And you said, hit that ball back into where it came out of. And it's got the little, we talked about this on a previous little video. Maybe these will both be in there, but maybe you missed that part. I'll say it again. There's a little spot where the ball comes out, where they cut the net, and it comes out about that size, right? And I don't know if I did it on the first or second time, but within that time frame, I believe, I don't know if you recall this, I did it. And you're like, all right, you know how to hit a baseball.
There you go.
Is that fair?
The Jugs pitching machine. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Do you remember that specific event?
I'd like to say yes, but when you look at a couple of thousand swings a day for 12 years, it's hard to remember each swing.
Right. No, I appreciate that. But it was impactful to me, and I recall that's what you said, and I was like, and that's where you kind of developed some of your perspective that I might have what it takes to make it.
Absolutely.
And we just talked about this a minute ago. I didn't know this, but you did have an athlete that came out. What college was Steve Cline playing baseball that you interacted with him?
Well, he was playing for me at Central
At
Memphis.
Central Memphis? Okay. And you said he made it to the major league level, or the big league level, but not the major league level.
Correct.
And AA, AAA?
Both, 2 separate years,
AAA.
A and double, and then,
Okay.
and then,
So never quite to AAA.
yeah.
Because they say the guys that make it to AAA, they've got what it takes. It's just a matter of who falls out.
Now, my
fill in.
assistant coach back in 1975, the year we won the championship, had played for Pittsburgh Pirates in their organization and had made it to AAA and then had elbow problems. He was a pitcher.
Gosh, how many people are there that? That's all right. That's all right. How many players are there? And I just, in my case, and I know a number of other people, they had the ability, they had the skills, but there was somebody in front of them. Sometimes they signed a bigger contract, so they got a better opportunity to stick around longer maybe than they should have. There was a better athlete. I know somebody in particular. He was on my show. Drawing a blank. E-Dub, Eric Wallace, and he talked about it. He's like, so many of these guys, he got up to, I think, AAA with the Royals. We played ball together. He could hit smack a ball. He was great. He played on our semi-pro team. It was the number 1 team in the country, the St. Louis Spikes, of which I was the left fielder. He would play right field. And there's a lot of guys who are good enough, but something happens.
That's right.
And the elbow you're talking about.
Yeah. He said that if they had Tommy John surgery back in the 60s, he might have been able to recover.
They don't have that in the
They
60s.
didn't have it.
People they want the surgery now because it makes their arm stronger.
Yeah, you get an elbow problem, which is very common, and actually, they shorten some of the tendons in there, which actually gives them a little more power.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But yeah, they talked about people, they want that surgery because now they're more durable at least, or a number of, and now you're talking about there's more power that can be developed by that. And it's just like inevitable, it seems, if you're going to be a major league pitcher, there's so much wear and tear on your arm trying to throw a 100 mile an hour, 95 mile an hour fastball. This is fairly inevitable you're going to have this injury. What percentage? We have to look that up. What percentage of big leaguers have Tommy John? It's probably 25%.
Yeah, maybe not that high.
15?
Yeah, okay.
We'll check that out. But it's a lot. We all know that people have done it. I think Adam Wainwright. I mean, you go down the list of people that
That's right.
we all know. So back to what happened and what you were talking about prior. And again, I'm trying to develop this so people understand. I don't care if I'd have made it, if I was or not. But we're always trying to inspire others and kids, especially because they hear these stories like, "Oh, I could do that. I knew that guy back when he whatever. Maybe I can do that." But how many kids get despondent, disconnected, and just aren't given an opportunity, don't take the opportunity? I think you got to take opportunities many times because if you're expecting them all to fall in your lap, you're going to miss a lot of them.
Well, here's an interesting story. Steve Cline, the one I told you about, when he came to Central, he wasn't going to play baseball. He was a basketball player, 5'9", 165 pounds, and he was all-conference basketball player, 22 points a game.
3-point shooter.
Quick as a cat. And I talked to him after basketball practice. I'm watching guys in the batting cage, and he comes over with a towel around him. And I say, "Steve, you're an excellent basketball player at 5'9". You're not going to make the pros. Did you ever play baseball?" He said, "Yeah, I played baseball until I was about 14, and then AAU basketball took over." I said, "If you come and play baseball, I think you've got a good shot at making it." And he did.
And he did. To AA, might have been triple, might have made it, except he had an injury.
Yeah.
You said hamstring?
Hamstring.
Yeah, so there you are again.
He set records in the minor leagues in playing shortstop and stolen bases, consecutive hitting streak, etc.
And so, Tracy, are we still recording? I want to make sure this thing's rolling. All right. So, and then I asked you a few minutes ago because I didn't know about Steve Cline. What years was he there? Not Steve Cline, the lefter for the pitcher for the Cardinals.
Oh,
Different Steve Cline.
He was in the early years, 75.
75. Okay, so quite a bit before me. And then I came around 1990. I was graduate high school 90, 91. They actually happened September 15th, September 19th, 6 p.m., 1991. Hit by a drunk driver. We all know that story. If you want to see that, go check out CardinalCowboy.com. But I asked you, I said, so Steve Cline, I never heard about, because
Sure.
we did a pregame prep. We did our discussion in the green room, which was at the dining facility here. We're in a nice facility that Steve they take him well care of, and they let you enjoy it here, right?
I do.
That's nice. And I said, well, be honest with me. Was I as good as Steve? And if you just repeat what you said to me earlier, to be honest.
At your age, of course, I'm looking at you when you're 15. At that age, you were as good or better than he was at that age.
Yeah. And so 17, and I guess probably, because I didn't turn 18 until I was out of college. I was an late bloomer, what do you call that? But I was graduated high school. My birthday's May 8th. I think I graduated from high school May 30th or whatever. And so I just turned 18. But anyway, so 15. Steve's got something important there. But and so I thought so too. And we talked about that if I had been able to develop the way you had developed other players, pretty good shot I would at least be somewhere in the minor league system, if not make it to the big level. And you see a lot of times that's a lot to do with work ethic, would you say? Once you get to that level? Some of the guys are multi-talented, but they don't work as hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't realize how much work it takes to be as perfect as you can be.
Well said. And the issue I would argue with anyone is that I took thousands of ground balls, thousands of fly balls. Nobody else in the neighborhood did that. There were some good athletes in our neighborhood, Cliff Pleat. And that's what Cliff said to me. He said, you're the one everyone watched you practice in the middle of the yard. In the middle of the subdivision, we called it the ditch. And that's the kind of stuff you had to do. And that's what the point of there is. Do those things at any point in your life. Decide you want to become ultra dedicated to something, wherever you're at, and just take it over. Give it everything you got, and you can become the best. Or at least good enough to make a very good living. If not the best in the world. Who cares if you're the best in the world as long as you get to do what you want to do and help other people. So Cliff said that to me, and I had neighbors tell me, Carter, we used to all sit on our deck and watch you take fly balls. I didn't know that was happening. But those are the kinds of things that set people apart, and that kind of dedication. And that's why I say, if I had been given the opportunity, and I could argue that, woe is me, and why did this happen? I was that way for probably a year and a half, at least 2 years after coming out of a coma, pulling a ventilator out of my throat. Made them take me back to school, 1 week in a coma, 1 week at home, and back to school, got grades. Not good, but then said, let's transfer back to, and this is where I kind of wish, the one big decision in my life, that, when you're a 19-year-old kid, because that was a sophomore year, I transferred to Central Methodist. After going to St. Louis U, we talked about that situation, how that kind of went. That was interesting. My buddy came back later. I tried out again to walk on after my coma, and he said, Carter, why aren't you on this team already? Because I'm one of the most valuable players for SLABA, same where David Freese, Ryan Howard, Kyle McClellan won, and he said, you should be already on this team. Disconnect with regard to whoever, whatever, who didn't know me, recognize, look at the stats, didn't, whatever, and got a different plan. So here I am now going off to recovering from a coma, and I think this is where I segue into what do you believe some of the skills people gain from playing sports, in particular baseball? We made the joke earlier. You played chess. I played a little chess, but you're kind of a chess whiz, right? You teach your grandson chess.
Well, I play it a lot. and like most things, if you want to be good. Actually, I have a football player that I taught in college. I talked to recently, being 80 years old, I get to hear from people like yourself, Mike Scardina, and he was a free safety at Central Methodist, and he was very passionate. He took up golf, and in our conversation, we talked about golf, and I said, well, what was your handicap? And he said, well, I was a scratch golfer. I said, well, how many strokes did you get? He said, at a country club, I had to give back strokes. So he was that passionate about what he did. And whatever you do in life, if you're that passionate about it, if you're lucky enough to be passionate about it, you could excel to a very high level.
And that's what we're talking about. So many people get stuck in life and they just don't want to even pursue what they're awesome at or good at to become one of the best or make it into something they can make a great living with because they're stuck feeling sorry for themselves based on a situation hopefully not near as bad as a coma, but could be much less and still stuck. And how often does that happen to people?
Often.
Very often. So with that, I told Steve I had kind of pre-prepared for this trip, and interview, I'm taking off my Cardinal Cowboy hat just for a minute at least to take off. This is your little castle show where we share businesses that are impacting our small businesses in particular. They're impacting our world. And now we're getting to the Cardinal Cowboy baby blue because we're traveling today. We're in Chicago, so I got the baby blue because that's the travel color, right, for the Cardinals. And this now, I wore my favorite number. And they said, Carter, and I had this number before he did, but you'll guess what number I'm wearing. I'm going to turn this way so everybody can see as I turn. What number is that right there, Steve?
Number 5.
Number 5. Who for the Cardinals is now world famous for wearing number 5?
Was it Stan?
Nope, Stan was 6.
I'm a New York Yankees person.
Oh, that's right. He's a Kansas City Yankees fan. He grew up over in Independence, Missouri.
Grew up in Independence, Missouri?
And then Kansas City Royals.
Absolutely.
But there's number, where did I see that picture at? Number 4 is Yadier Molina, is that right? He's now retired. And we've gone 15 minutes into our, thanks for that clock up there. It tells us how long we're in. But Yadier Molina, was he 4? He was 2. No, he's 4. He's 4, 5, 6. I had a picture with the 3 of them. Somebody tell me, am I getting Yadier? Oh my God. Am I brain freezing? Let me double check. I brought my phone in for that purpose. Yadier Molina's number. Yep, 4. Okay, had that right. So he's 4. Number 5. Oh, hold on. That's still recording. Yep, and my phone's talking to me. I got my voice command over there saying, "Hey Google, don't answer that, Google." Number 5 was a guy by the name of Albert Pujols.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows Albert Pujols by name.
Sure.
If they don't know his numbers, he wore different numbers actually after he left the Cardinals. Number 55, he had to be for the Dodgers because they already had a 5. Even as good as Albert Pujols was, they didn't take his number. You can give up your number if you want to, but whoever it was didn't want to give up their number. And so number 5 was my number, and I was a diehard Cardinals fan. And then life threw me a curveball. I got a shirt that says, "Life throws you curveballs." It's not a matter of how difficult the curveball is, but how hard you try to hit it and overcome it, even if you miss, right? Kind of thing. And we talk about that. So fast forward, baseball now has helped me develop those skills. We talked about chess. How important do you think the skills people really learn from sports are to help them achieve in life?
Well, my mentor was my football coach at William Jewell College, my undergraduate degree, and he had several sayings, and one of them was, "Carelessness is the supreme conceit." So details, and he had a favorite story about details. For one of the shoe, the horse was lost. For one of the horse, the general was lost. For one of the general, the war was lost. All because of a horseshoe nail. And that tale, that story, is attributed to Leonardo da Vinci and his philosophy of life.
Who created all kinds of inventions that were hundreds of years before their time. And
Tanks.
Even so, he was persecuted because it was against the Christian or whatever religion. I think it was Christian at the time, at whatever country it was. You can't do those things because that's what God, and it helped them control him. And boy, if we had people stopping, very strong believer in faith and higher power. And I personally believe Christianity is the best platform we have to kind of understand and do best in life. But they would, at times in our history, we go on a history lesson, but that's the way. So how do you then overcome all of those types of things like Leonardo obviously did? And how do you overcome things that are roadblocks in your life? And you've talked about some athletes you know that had some hurdles to overcome.
Well, you practice, and I have a kind of a saying, perfect practice makes perfect. And practicing, and for our hitters on the baseball team, I made them, and if they got on the jugs machine, I think there was 12 balls in a carousel, and they wanted to swing at all 12, but the first 3 pitches they had to bunt. And they hated to do it because it was 3 pitches they couldn't swing at. But they became very good at seeing the ball get to the bat. And they became very good bunters. You see it in the pros today. Many hitters can't lay down a bunt because they don't practice it.
Not that they're not capable, they don't practice. It's very obvious. Like they obviously haven't practiced because you got to hit home runs now. How do you like that?
And one thing builds to the other.
Because you're seeing that ball come in and you're putting the bat out in front of it and holding it. So it helps you with hitting.
It's like I have a master's degree in motor performance, and swinging a bat, medial rotation of the central axis is swinging the bat, pitching a ball.
Wow. Is it true in your estimation, because your first sport was football?
That's right.
Is hitting a baseball, do you think that's the hardest thing to do in sports?
Round ball with a round bat, yes.
That's also breaking in different directions based on whatever they're doing. Talk a little bit about your background before you were a coach for Central Methodist College, Central Methodist University. You coached under a famous coach that many people are going to be familiar with. Can you talk about that?
My graduate year, I graduated from William Jewell College, where I played football, ran track, and tennis. Didn't play baseball. And then I got some funding to be a graduate assistant at Penn State, the fall of 1966. Joe Paterno, his first year as head coach, he had been assistant coach for 10 years, but it was his first year as head coach of the football team. And a tremendous philosopher of life.
Wow. Coach Paterno, you worked for him, obviously part of his coaching staff, and that must have been exciting. I mean, looking back, you have to go, holy cow, I got to coach under Coach Paterno.
As a graduate assistant, I just saw a lot of film and talked to individual players and worked with them. Actually, I taught a lot of those people how to play racquetball, which really helped their quickness of foot.
Yeah, that's like quickness, that'll help you. Agility. Wow. There's all kinds of strategies to be the best that you don't even realize that are out there. Chess, critical skills, racquetball, agility and quickness. Hitting the batting cage hundreds of times, if not thousands.
My master's thesis was the effects of mental practice on the acquisition of physical skills of varying complexity.
I want to replay that for myself later so I understand. But take note of that. I didn't bring my giant pencil we use in my studio where I say, take note. But take note, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting. I'm going to make sure my video production. Tracy, are we still on schedule?
What?
Are we still on schedule here? All right, 2:52 I've got. I also need you to check this, make sure we're not running out of film, but I'm pretty certain we are
I'm
not.
sitting there, sorry.
Is it still going?
It's still going.
All right, cool.
23 minutes in.
All right, 23 minutes. And so we got about 7 minutes. We're shooting for about a half an hour recording of what we're doing here.
I just sit
We've covered a lot already, and I'm trying to think what else could be more valuable that we could talk about. If we went a couple more hours, Coach Phipps here would certainly help us appreciate. We're going to do a little, what they call B-roll. I might just add it on the end here. There's a picture of you as I remember you when 1991 with your family, and you've got a great family. How important do you think family is to the development of a child these days?
Well, I think it's more difficult to accomplish things if you don't have a strong family. Not that it can't be done, but the more a family is behind you, I think it's not unusual for somebody like Peyton Manning to be as good a football player as he was because of his dad, Archie Manning. And I think now in the case of Dwayne Mason, my assistant coach who had played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, he did not have the support of his family, and it was a really tough road but he persevered and is now well, he's retired now like me, but he ended up getting a PhD and has published a lot and has been at the pinnacle in several different areas. As a matter of fact, the artwork I have in my apartment was done by him.
Wow. How many impactful people do you believe, now you're looking back, my dad would talk about as he recruited and look back and say, I helped that kid get in, and man, they were telling me, and he didn't have the GPA or he didn't have the ACT score, but we went to bat for him and he made it, and today he's the sheriff, or today he's the principal. How many people did you have the good fortune, I guess you would say, to impact their lives because they didn't make it as a professional baseball player, but they went off to accomplish other incredible things, and a lot of the skills they gained, a lot of the confidence they gained, came from when they played baseball with you?
It's interesting, and I think there's one of the adages, coaches always have girls when they have kids. Several of my players have had daughters who have been very good softball players and are now playing college softball at the very highest level. And it's just kind of fun to look at their dads and think about our time together and how that, I hope, affected them positively in terms of them working with their daughters.
Well, I tell you, the impact, again, I think is why I do my thing. I was talking to Coach, and I've never said this on camera anywhere, so I'll reiterate and tell me how this might impact or help. But I go to the Cardinal games. I have a young lady who reached out to me. She says, "You don't." Naturally, she didn't expect me to remember. I'm in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people in a couple sections. But I invited her son to come up, like I do, and the Cardinals, I think, appreciate this. They haven't said anything to stop doing this. And I go up and I do my thing. I've gotten my replica World Series trophy, and I hand it to one of the kids after I invited them to come. So we got to do a cheer. We got to get the Cardinals going here. Because I've had David Freese, a buddy of mine, I don't know him personally really well, but I've run into him, talked to him, and he said, Carter, you got to keep doing what you're doing. It makes a difference. The players hear you. It's just something positive you're doing. I'm like, I didn't think they even noticed that. But I said, all right, well, what more can I do to help my team, to help people gain an affinity for baseball, the sport that got me through a coma that they didn't expect me to recover from. So I had this young kid, and I handed him the trophy, and I said, let's do our cheer. And we go, let's go Cardinals, and took a picture and did a little video of it and put it up on my little Facebook. And that was it. She reaches out to me, and I said, oh yeah, but you gave my son, and by the way, you had an incredible impact on him because he was so thrilled, and now he loves his baseball. He had got to hold that replica World Series with the Cardinal Cowboy World Series trophy. And it's a replica, but now it looks pretty good. You said you saw the picture, and you said, well, that does look pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. And I said, cool, well, how can I help you with this trivia night? I'll get you some tickets. I might get them myself. I might reach out to my contacts, depending on what's going on. And otherwise, I'd like to, if you'd like me to talk about my story a little bit, because that helps people too. So they're, of course, we'd love for that to happen. But how often do we in life go through difficult situations or whatever, and then get stuck later in life and feel like we're not contributing when we could have if we'd have just taken the opportunity? Does that happen often, you see? And then people come through, but maybe sports help them get through it?
Yes, I think, well, again, I think you mentioned it earlier. If life gives you lemons, you make lemonade is a great metaphor for what you have to do, and no matter what the circumstances, persevere. You live, make the best of it.
Absolutely. And how many people, we've used this image on some of our past shows, the Cowboy Judge Show on ABC. For 4 years we did that, Awesome Studio. All thank you for all the sponsors that made that happen. But I'll never forget this image. I don't know if I showed it on there, but we talked about it, I know. And it's a picture of two guys, they're both mining. And one's right above the other, or wherever they're at. It's a snapshot of those guys mining. And right on the other side of this wall is a lot of gold, right? And the analogy is the one guy is just worn out, and he stops, and he's sitting there. And the other guy just keeps mining. Neither one of them know that they're actually 2 cranks away from getting through the wall to get to the gold. One guy gave up. The other one didn't realize how close he was, but he kept going. And he's about to hit 2 more times, and he's going to reach his goal. He's going to get the goal. And is that true of so many people? They just give up right when they were so close, and they didn't realize if they kept going, they wouldn't.
Well, there's a Branch Rickey story in baseball that he told about back in the baseball day when there were no fences, just fields, and the hot shot hits the ball past the outfielders and it rolls a long, long way, and he's trotting around the bases. And the center fielder runs as hard as he can, as long as he can, and finally gets to the ball, never gives up, gets the ball and throws it back, and another outfielder relays it, and they relay it into the infield, and they relay it to home plate, and the guy who hit it is jogging, and they tag him out at home. So never give up on that fly ball.
Never, ever, ever. Jimmy V talks about it. Never, ever, ever, ever give up.
That's it.
So many people do, and they were so close. I've been fortunate to accomplish some things that if I make the list of things I look back, they're going, you are so full of it, there's no way you did those things. And I go, I did. Did this for this company, did this for this organization, did this. And most of the time it was because I just didn't give up. So there's our half-an-hour chime.
That's at 3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock. And I was like, I can even cut this, but we want to stay right around 30 minutes. And we can, on YouTube, we go forever. On ABC, we got to say 28 minutes, 30 seconds. But would you say, and I've got another shirt for you, and I'm going to try not to embarrass myself by pulling my shirt out here. But underneath this shirt, I wore another shirt pertaining, and I think I told you about before. But how awesome, how relevant is this? It just says, rub dirt on it. What does that mean to you, Coach?
That means no matter how tough it is, you keep going. If you gotta. Now the people today, when I was a kid, if you had a scrape, you just rub a little dirt on it and keep on fielding those ground balls.
Yeah, you got to get up. The game must go on. And are you going to come out of the game because you got a little blood on your knee? That's going to heal up. And dirt will cause it to coagulate, right, and turn into a scab. And then you can keep playing. And I don't know how many times I did that, but I used to have bloody knees all the time, scabs that were that big. And I'd pick them off. I'm sure my mom loved cleaning up I was changing my sheets in the bed because at night you can see that. But those things make you stronger, make you tougher, and really then you can prove to yourself what you're capable of if you just don't give up. Rub some dirt on it. Coach Phipps, everybody. Central Methodist University for many years, a legend, and my girlfriend, again, helped me realize, my production assistant, I should say, she's wonderful, and was getting a card for her grandma. I was like, what else can I? Well, there we go, there's an idea. And you'd mentioned your retirement, and I said, all right, I didn't come to the retirement party, I apologize, but
Didn't have one.
okay, there we go. But I'm opening this for you. I'm going to let you open it. How about that? I'm going to put this back in here. I've got the things here.
I'll keep it out.
Okay,
I'll just-
here it is. Well, there's this Coach Phipps, and there's the card. And you can do it that way too, so yeah, that's better. And it says retired.
and admired.
And admired. Absolutely the case.
Thank you.
I talked to some of the guys that we all kind of catch up, the guys that played with you, Billy Roth.
Oh, yeah.
And Billy talks about you. And oh gosh, Strickland.
Bill Strickland.
Bill Strickland, and there's Ricky Strickland, and Dave Strickland. We'll have to look up the names there. But Strickland.
Bill Strickland
Was it Bill?
was a football player
Okay.
at that time in the 70s.
And somebody, oh gosh.
Oh, so you're talking about 90s?
Yeah, 90s. But we had, gosh, I forget his first name. But I still talk to him. My mom nominated him. He's got a great roofing company. But it's Mr. Strickland to me because he was.
That's right.
And Mr. Phipps, I had to Coach Phipps. I had to look at him like, let's try Steve Phipps, but I don't call you Steve. I call you Coach Phipps. And they all spoke highly of you and the influence you had and the impact you had on people. So I wanted you to have that card. If you want to go ahead and open it up. And you don't have to read the whole thing, but just talk a little bit there. But what are the keynotes that you pull out of that?
You changed lives? Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you.
And this is absolutely truth. And Coach Phipps is not the only person that gets to do that. You, at whatever point you're at in your life, can take on and do the same thing the coach has done. The sooner the better. The more lives you get to impact, the better you feel about yourself. And with that, I'll give you my little card here. So this is the Cardinal Cowboy sticker. I give these out to a lot of kids, but anybody I run into, I hand them to somebody who just waited on me at a table and say, never give up. If you want to look up anything, go to cardinalcowboy.com, and there's just a ton of things that we've been fortunate to be included in
Great.
in the community. But that was personalized and signed Cardinal Cowboy for you, and I hope you don't throw it in the trash
No.
right after I leave. Let's keep it for a while.
I'll have it right on that.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Memorabilia.
Awesome. But it's a sticker, and I can get you more if you know. I didn't even bring one of my posters. I've got a poster of myself on the field. Like, buddy, mine's Carter. We're here doing this as a promotion. You helped us raise some money by chance. They asked me to be the spokesperson. Now batting for Team Hollywood while the Cardinals were at the field. And his name's Rolen, great photographer, great person in St. Louis, and took this awesome picture of me on the field doing my thing. I said, hold on, my mom's a drama teacher. Let me do this. Great looking picture. I'm wearing the outfit. And then later they said another sponsor. And I called the guys I know, and they wrote a check for $15,000. That was great. Thanks to you guys for doing. You know who you are. I won't say your name unless you want me to. But they said, "Oh, we're going to do this. Will help us too, because we're going to use it as a motivation for our salespeople. If they want to hit on the field at Busch Stadium, they got to meet certain quotas, and that's the numbers. And it's everything works together when you're helping each other. And so anyway, maybe I'll send one to you, because I've had people ask me from around the country. I went to I was invited to the Superfan whatever in Chicago. That's why we were up here at the same hotel we stayed in here recently. And I walk in the room, and there's a bunch of super fans. I didn't know any of them. There's some really famous super fans, and I happen to be fortunate to be listed with a number of them. Fireman Joe, Towelman, myself. And anyway, I walk in the room, and people start going, "Holy cow. The Cardinal Cowboys here." I was like, guys, come on. But at least then I realize I'm hopefully having a bit of an impact. And if they know what the story is behind, and there's going to be people that don't like me because of whatever I just got attention for, and we'll work with you later to help you get through that, because that's not a good attitude towards life. But if you're doing something that makes an impact, be ready for the things they're going to say periodically. But 99% of what people do, I'd say, and I've studied this, 1 out of 1,000 people, you give them $1 million, they're going to be mad at you anyway, because you didn't give them $2 million or whatever. And so, but the other people, they really appreciate what you're doing. So I'm going to get Coach a poster, and where I sign it. It's me on the field. It's a great looking shot, and a lot of businesses like it, and I sign it. They put it up on their wall. It's really neat. Fortunate for me, like I said. But it says "Dream." I put this on there because this wasn't on the picture, obviously. But I'm a little bit of a graphic artist, and it says "Dream," ... and then chase your dreams. How often do people get caught dreaming, but they don't do the second part?
They don't chase it.
They don't chase it. And they were talented, good, qualified, everything they needed, but they didn't go after it. And it doesn't just fall in your lap. How many times do you see people make it big time and it falls in their lap?
Not often.
I'd say almost never. You don't realize what all the work that's been going on for 7 years prior to that, or 10 years prior to that. All you see is when they made it.
That's like, when you say not often, somebody like Michael Jordan, they say, oh, he's a natural with his shot. So how many thousands of shots did it take before he could hit that percentage? You know, they make it look easy, but they work so hard to be the best.
They talk about it. He would stay hours after everybody else quit. These are guys in the NBA who made it to the highest level, who went home, their practice was over, and Jordan would stay around and shoot more. People don't know that. Kobe Bryant talks about that too. A lot of, and Kobe, we miss that guy. But go out there and change the world, everybody. You can do it too, right?
We could talk for hours.
We could talk for hours. All right, thanks everybody. Stay tuned for more. This is the Cardinal Cowboy, your little castle show. I'm going to go up and shoot a couple images while I'm still got the camera rolling here. Make it one big video. And if you want to describe any of these, but I at least wanted to show everybody was this one right here. And that was, you would estimate, when is that?
You know, I think that's maybe 95, 96.
Yep, because I was there in 91, so that was my coach. And a lot of other fun things and great daughters and everything you've done to develop a great family to make this world a better place. So, up. So, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Giddy up.